Homeownership can bring great joy and accomplishment, but it can also bring unexpected problems based on circumstances beyond your control.
Issues like mold, which can cause damage to your home and make you sick, but how do you get rid of a mold problem or even detect it? PuroClean has been called the Paramedics of Property Damage, and here to tell us how to heal a moldy home is Will Southcombe. Welcome.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning.
How are you? You know, we hear so much about mold these days. In fact, when I was telling you in the break, when I lived in Seattle, my first apartment was filled with mold. I was sick all the time and didn't even know why.
Happens a lot. Mold allergies are a problem.
Is it as prevalent here in California and the Sacramento area?
Actually, it's about the same amount of situations every place.
Really?
Because of the way homes are built. Homes are built tight, today tighter than ever before. And that means that when moisture gets on the wrong side of that moisture barrier, it's then inside the house. Mold spores are everywhere. You add moisture, you're going to have mold growing.
So is mold a bigger problem now than it's ever been, or are we just hearing more about it?
We certainly are hearing more about it. The media has helped to make people aware of the situation. But I think it is a greater problem, again, because of tighter homes, and we spend more time indoors for different reasons.
And what you mean by tighter homes, you mean homes that don't really have breathing space within the walls and the
to be
floors
energy efficient, we make them almost airtight. We wrap them in saran wrap and then cut windows out, and now there's no natural breathing that takes place. So if water gets on the wrong side, and the food source is always present, we've got our homes are built with wood, paper on both sides of drywall, 2 examples. That is food for mold. Now if you add water, you're going to have mold growing.
Okay, and we're looking at some pictures here. Sometimes you can see mold and sometimes you can't. How do you know if you have it?
If you see it, I mean, that's self-evident. If you don't see it, usually the first indication is you smell it. A bit of odor, that musty, moldy odor that you're used to having. And that's an indication that if you have the odor, you have the mold.
If you do have mold in your house, is there a place where you can look where it might be, like around window frames?
If you got the smell and you can't find it, window frames are a good source. Under sinks, because window frames you would see naturally unless it's behind the curtain, but under sinks in bathrooms, that kind of area. And if you still can't locate it, call a professional to come out to help detect it.
Okay, and can you clean it yourself? If you just have a little patch of mold somewhere and you don't see it anywhere else, is it safe and okay to clean it yourself?
The Environmental Protection Agency says that anybody who does any work with mold should be trained in doing so, focusing on safety issues. Wear a basic respirator, eye protection, gloves. If there's any doubt on the amount of mold that's there, again, I'd recommend calling a professional such as PuroClean to come in and give some assistance. Now,
if those spaces are so tight, how do you get rid of it when you guys come in?
Exactly. The first issue, and again, the EPA the guidelines for mold talk about first solve the water problem. Where's the water coming from? Fix it. Once the water's been stopped and resolved, then you can have someone come in, track it down. And we'd use meters. Professional in the house will use professional meters. They'll explain what's going to go on. You find where the water used to be, you're going to find where probably the mold is.
Talk a little bit about just how dangerous mold is, because it's something that you're kind of used to. It pops up every once in a while. Are all molds dangerous, and how dangerous can they be?
The Center for Disease Control says that although most molds don't have any effect on healthy people, all molds have the potential to cause illness or distress in people, especially people with respiratory problems. Asthma, some of the respiratory ailments, the very young, the very old could be susceptible to that. And for that reason, the Center for Disease Control says that if you find mold in a home, it should always be removed.
Always be removed. It's not as simple as painting over it.
Now, painting over it is a surface, it's like painting over rust. It doesn't work. The mold's going to continue to grow, and it'll pop the paint off, and it's going to be much worse then because it's been protected in the meantime.
What about just in your shower, and they have the shower, cleaners and whatnot that apparently kill mold and bacteria? Does that stuff really work?
It'll work, and in a shower situation where you got ceramic tile and grout, and the problem in the shower is usually ventilation. Now, incidental mildew that shows up on grout, that can be cleaned off. But again, if it keeps coming back, there's a vent problem that should be addressed. And you want to be sure that it's not coming out from behind the grout where the wall behind is wet because of a leak in the plumbing. Again, if you suspect that to be true, a professional could come out and help evaluate that.
In your experience with PuroClean, where are the most common areas you see mold?
Certainly crawl spaces would be susceptible, basements, and then again, any place you've got plumbing. It needs the water. So plumbing pipes behind sinks, under vanities, and then as you said, a leaky window frame will give you mold around the window, and it's inside the wall. It's difficult to find.
Okay, and we had all the information up on
how to get a hold of PuroClean. Yeah,
lovely.
More information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now we know more about mold than we did before.
I know, and it's good information. I was mentioning earlier that I've done stories before on kids that became really sick from mold, and nobody knows what's going on. So
well, there you go.
All right.
And special thanks to PuroClean for sponsoring this segment of Sacramento and Company.